It's the 16th of July 2026. The lineup is pretty much exact as I speak. Pluto's at 4 degrees 32. Neptune's at 4 degrees 23. Uranus is at 4 degrees 25. They're all within 5 minutes of 1 degree of each other. Jupiter is now at 3.5 degrees of Leo, and it's getting close. Jupiter is not only trining Pluto and Neptune, opposing Pluto and trining Neptune, it's also sextiling Uranus. And I want to look at this, but this isn't going to be as positive as I thought it would be. Jupiter and Uranus are grandfather and grandson. Most of the time they really get on. And when I see a Jupiter-Uranus sextile in a chart, I'm really favourable about it, because Jupiter's bouncy and fun, and it's optimistic and hopeful, and sometimes it's a bit Energizer Bunny. You know, it's a bit over the top. But most of the time it's got a great humour, and it knows that optimism influences outcomes. Uranus, especially in Gemini, I think, is actually, I quite like it. It's bringing a whole new attitude, whole new way of looking at communication and networking. And a sextile between the two, the window of opportunity for the blend of innovation and novelty, especially in communication systems, with the desire for growth, expansion, optimism and humour. And you think, what's not to like? I mean, that's a lovely aspect. But I looked at it a bit deeper, and I sort of realised, wait a minute, Jupiter's in Leo. That's the opposite sign to Aquarius, which is where Uranus is at its strongest. Uranus is in Gemini. That's the opposite sign to Sagittarius, which is where Jupiter's at its strongest. So Uranus is in Jupiter's detriment sign, and Jupiter is in Uranus's detriment sign. So there is a potential here that they could encourage each other to excess. Whether that's excess of optimism and humour and growth and communication, which is not too bad, great, or could it be the other way? Jupiter on its negative side can get really melancholic. Well, it can get worse than melancholic. I've got this hierarchy of Jupiterian disorder that I've worked on myself. And at the very base, you get despair, but, no one really goes there until they're on absolutely at death's door, at least psychologically, if in no other way. And above despair, you get depression, which is not a nice place at all. It's a really difficult thing to deal with. A lot of people who tell me they're really depressed. Depression is a kind of psychosis, a kind of blend between psychosis and neurosis, where you feel trapped. Above depression, you've got despondency, and a lot of people who tell me they're depressed are actually despondent, because despondent is when things just aren't working out the way you hope or want, no matter what you do, and you just feel like giving up because it's not going to be good, it's not going to work out. Despondency is a classic Jupiter trait, because Jupiter expects so much of itself, hopes for total success, and then when it doesn't work out as good as they expect, it can get despondent. Oh, why am I even bothering? But above despondency, you get melancholy, which is the tears of the clown. And sometimes I say to clients, look, melancholy is a big thing in your life. Okay? Every so often you need to go into a corner on your own, in private, where no one else can see, and just cry for 5 or 10 minutes. Cry the tears of the clown. Release the emotional frustration. So Jupiter's not all sweetness and light. And there could be an amplification of melancholy or despondency at this time when things aren't working out the way we expect. And Uranus, Uranus is... I love Uranus. I've always loved Uranus. I have a strong Uranus in my chart. And I'm really liking Uranus in Gemini, mainly because Uranus in Taurus was so difficult. But Uranus is the destroyer, the anarchist, and sometimes the nihilist. That he shares with Pluto. Destruction. And it's, particularly I suspect in Gemini, it's going to be like, right, well, if my plans aren't going to work out and I can't be flexible enough to adapt and there's no tolerance, there's no bending, it's a straight no, then, okay, I'm going to take the whole thing down with me. It's the kamikaze. It's the suicide bomber. Uranus in Gemini in a bad way is when it'll go, right, I'm going to sort of destroy the world. So Jupiter sextile Uranus in the 1 or 2% of negativity that it can have is going to amplify the destructive qualities of both of these planets, both in terms of global and personal. And you can be sure that there are 1 or 2 dictators out there, whether they're in the public eye or whether they're in the family home, who are going to be going, right, well, if I can't have what I want, then I'm going to take the whole thing down with me. Then they'll be sorry. However, that's the negative side. Jupiter sextile Uranus does bring optimism, it does bring hope. And we're seeing this around us now with the growing sense of discontent amongst normal, average, day-to-day people like you and me with the way our world has been run and is being run by an elite who are totally out of touch with the reality of situations. So Jupiter sextile Uranus is part of a bigger picture that's going to fire up a lot of enthusiasm for change. It's going to stimulate optimism and hope in ways that we can inspire both ourselves and our descendants with. There is going to be a great deal of creativity at this time, and this is the birth of something new. So I like Jupiter sextile Uranus. I've just got this little worry that because they're both in each other's detriment sign, that there might be a bit of overstated pomp and arrogance that ends up being almost fascistic, as in my way or no way. So let's avoid that in our personal lives and also watch out for it in the world around us, both personal and collective. On its own, Jupiter sextile Uranus is a wonderful, wonderful aspect, and I'm pleased to see it where it is now. Catch you later. Bye.